Let's talk about solving a quadratic equation that does not factor. Knowing this, we still have to put it in a quadratic form, and then, of course, we're going to use quadratic formula to answer it. So it's something you have to remember the formula for, but you'll be fine for that. Okay, so here we have the equation 4x squared plus 4x equals 5. As usual, when we solve a quadratic, we have to put it in the proper form where it's set equal to 0. So we would have 4x squared plus 4x plus 5 equals 0 by adding this to both sides. Okay, now that we've got it in our proper form and it's in simplified, I can't factor anything out. I already know that 4 times 5 is 20, and when I multiply them together, there's no way for me to factor this and end up with a 4 in the middle. So we're going to use the quadratic formula. Alright, so this means we have x equal negative b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So that's the formula we're going to use. So let's go ahead and then just insert our letters A, B, and C, which is a plus 5, since that one's not in the right form. So then we're going to have negative 4 plus or minus the square root 4 squared minus 4 times A, which is 4, times C, which is 5, all over 2 times 4. So then when we go to work this out, we want to go and work under the square root first. So 4 squared is 16. Then we're going to multiply 4 times 4 times 5, and we get 80 over 8. So now we're going to work on simplifying this. So that's negative 4 plus or minus the square root of negative 64 when we combine the 16 and the 80 over 8. Now remember, I've got a negative under the root symbol. What do we know? The negative is going to come out as an I. Plus or 4i times the square root of 64 over 8. Now I see there's an I. I have to remember anytime there's an I have to put it in a plus bi form, which means I've got to separate it. So I'm going to go ahead and separate it now. Negative 4 over 8 plus or minus I square root of 64 over 8. All right, now what is the square root of 64? That's going to be 8. So this is going to equal negative 4 over 8 plus or minus, and we always, when it's a whole number, write the I afterwards. So now we've got this simplified or solved, but we've got to simplify it down. So when I move this down a little bit, negative 1/4 is going to give me negative 1/2 plus or minus 8 over 8 is just 1, so that leaves me with an I. This is my final answer. So your biggest problem here is to remember you have to put it in A plus BI form. If you leave it in this form, even if you simplify it, it's still wrong. Okay? All right.